Good evening and welcome to the Capitol Report on Entity Television. I'm Steve Lance, and coming up, dueling campaign ads in competing rallies. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump rolling out new strategies to contrast each other's campaigns, and how President Biden says he's involved in a key part of the Harris campaign. On Capitol Hill, the FBI telling Congress it is yet to find evidence of a possible motive behind the attempted assassination of former President Trump. We'll hear testimony from today's joint Senate hearing. And a Chinese doping scandal looming large over the Olympic Games. U.S. lawmakers introducing bipartisan legislation to hold the CCP accountable for its players who test positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And the leader of the Project 2025 is now stepping down amid criticism from former President Trump's campaign. It comes as both Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris stepping up messaging efforts to define their candidacies. Joining us live now is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao from the North Lawn of the White House. Good evening, Iris. What exactly is Project 2025 and why is it in the spotlight now?
Good evening to you, Steve. So the Heritage Foundation-led Project 2025 is a long policy book that lays out sweeping governing agenda for a potential second Trump term. Democrats have made it central to their attacks on the Trump campaign, labeling it as extreme. Former President Trump himself has also tried to distance himself from it. And today, the director of Project 2025 says he's stepping down and that the project will end its policy work. The Trump campaign welcomed that, saying in a statement that Project 2025 had nothing to do with the campaign and that its demise would be greatly welcomed. But Harris's campaign is insisting that Project 2025, quote, is Donald Trump's policy agenda. And here's a clip of how the hot button issue has come up in just recent days. Watch.
So Project 2025 is a plan to return America to a dark past.
And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. And they keep saying, he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week, I took a bullet for democracy.
It's not clear if Project 2025 would stop appearing in the two campaigns' back and forth arguments, but both campaigns are ramping up their messaging efforts. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump both launching dueling ad campaigns in battleground states today, with Harris's highlighting her experience as a prosecutor, while Trump highlighting Harris's record on the border.
Over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes.
As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks.
And tonight, Harris is holding a campaign rally in Georgia, in Atlanta. Former President Trump also announced today he's holding another rally with J.D. Vance, his VP pick, at the same exact spot, Georgia State University, this weekend. Steve.
Well, Iris, we'll certainly see if Vice President Harris responds to that this evening at her rally. In the meantime, what is the latest with VP Harris's selection of her potential vice president?
So Vice President Kamala Harris today told reporters that she has not yet made that selection. And last night, President Biden, talking to reporters on his way back to the White House, said he's talking with Harris about that, so he is involved. Meanwhile, the pool for Harris's VP pick is now narrowing, as we know that Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer said she's not part of the vetting, and as North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said he has taken himself out of consideration. So we expect Kamala Harris to make that announcement sometime next week.
We'll certainly be keeping an eye on that as well. NTD's Iris Tao live at the White House. Thank you, Iris. And the Senate Homeland Security and Judiciary Committees holding a joint hearing to examine the security failures that led up to the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Senators hearing testimony from the Secret Service's acting director and the FBI's deputy director. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on the story.
The Senate's Homeland Security Chairman, Senator Gary Peters, called the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump an attack on democracy.
So let me be clear. This was an attack on our democracy. Americans should be able to attend a political rally and express their political beliefs without without fear of violence.
The Republican ranking member of the Senate's Judiciary Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham, insisted that accountability is necessary for change to be enacted.
If this happened in the military, a lot of people would be fired. And if a lot of people are not fired, the system failed yet again. We need to learn what happened, make corrective action, but somebody's got to be fired. Nothing's going to change until somebody loses their job.
U.S. Secret Service Acting Director Ronald Rowe used his opening remarks to debunk conspiracy theories and apologize for the lack of timely transparency.
I regret that information was not passed to Congress and the public sooner with greater frequency. The Secret Service counter-sniper neutralized the assailant within seconds after the assailant fired his weapon. That counter-sniper had full discretion to use deadly force to stop an attacker and did not need to seek authorization to fire.
FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate did not give any evidence of the shooter's possible motive, but did comment on possible leads that the investigation is following.
While the investigation has not determined motive, the investigative team continues to review information. Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes.
Over 2 weeks after the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, the FBI has revealed that they have not been able to access all of the information in the shooter's phone. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
As to whether or not Israel can manage a war in Gaza and a fight in Lebanon at the same time, Israel will do what it needs to defend itself, and it's demonstrated that time and again. We've committed to helping Israel defend itself, whatever it takes.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin making those comments while visiting the Philippines. Israel Defense Forces today striking southern Beirut, saying they likely killed the Hezbollah commander responsible for the strike on a soccer field in Israel that left 12 children dead this past weekend. However, reports are surfacing now that that was not the case and that they missed their intended target. Cameron Carcenia is vice president of the National Union for Democracy in Iran, an expert in U.S. foreign policy, and he joins us to assess. Cameron, the IDF striking northern Israel, or Lebanon, if you will, southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah's leaders are supposedly located. What message, is this a strong enough message to Hezbollah at the very least, if not Iran?
If they're able to eliminate Hassan Nasrallah, then that's a clear message. Anything short of that, again, is more of kicking the can down the road. They know that the West is not going to give a proper response to them. We've seen in the past several days reporting coming out of both Jerusalem and here in Washington, also European capitals, that the United States and other countries are trying to hold the Israelis back from a response. We saw that I think the Israelis were unable to accomplish their mission in Gaza. The only way that you actually end this, it has to be in Tehran. And I'm not talking about a military conflict because that would bring the entire region, I think, into chaos. What I'm talking about is the people of Iran who are on the streets. They're fighting the fight. And I think that they're the best allies for Israel. If Israel is willing to look at them, and if Israel is willing to support them, that's how you can change this. Even if you destroy Hezbollah, even if you destroy Hamas, the Islamic Republic will start a new group just like Hezbollah, just like Hamas, with more weapons, with more funding.
Today, approximately 10 more projectiles fired into northern Israel, killing another person, as we know right now. This is following the event that just killed 12 children and teenagers. Hezbollah is being held responsible. The U.S. has just sanctioned Iran's missile and drone program targeting, this goes beyond just Iran. It goes to China, Hong Kong, these countries that are providing some of the components. Is this enough? And what message do you think this sends to China and Iran?
I think it's not nearly enough. And so it may be Hezbollah doing the bidding, but the one really calling the shots, the puppet master behind all of this, is the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei sitting in Tehran. And he's been doing this for the past 35 years. So his goal is to get as close as he can to the line, push it as far as possible, cause as much damage, as much chaos, without getting any repercussions from the West. And the response has never been enough because Khamenei has been able to consistently get away with it. this type of response will elicit more of the same behavior from the Iranian regime.
Israel has vowed retaliation. And we're also seeing what's playing out in Gaza right now. How might this affect the ceasefire? And Israel, of course, has to defend itself. How do you see them balancing this?
I think it makes it, of course, much more difficult for the Israelis. As you say, not only do they have to fight in Gaza, but also on their northern front against Lebanon with Hezbollah. For Arabs in the region, the Palestinians, the Jordanians, none of these people are going to be able to live in peace as long as the Islamic Republic is still in power. Because what the Islamic Republic is trying to do is pit everybody against each other. And so I think until Israel realizes that its solution to actual peace and security is supporting the people of Iran, who are actually fighting on the ground to get rid of the Islamic Republic, to end this 45-year reign of terror. Israel, unfortunately, is going to continue to face these threats because that's the nature of the Islamic Republic.
Cameron Kansarnia, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
The Paris Olympics are well underway. That's as U.S. lawmakers are working to defund the World Anti-Doping Agency. This comes after a recent doping scandal involving members of the Chinese Olympic swim team. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
What we're seeing here is bipartisan, bicameral legislation, meaning both the House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats, are introducing legislation that would withhold funding to the World Anti-Doping Agency. This stems from a dispute just months before the 2020 Olympics, where over 20 Chinese swimmers tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug called TMZ, which increases stamina and shortens recovery time. WADA was told by the Chinese officials that the swimmers were food poisoned by bad hamburger meat. WADA took the claims at face value and allowed the swimmers to compete. But news of this didn't emerge until years later, and that's what has lawmakers so upset.
These positive tests were hidden from the public and remained secret for 3 years.
Instead of working with us to ensure an even playing field, WADA has worked against us at every turn.
Athletes, deserve, just like we've heard here, they deserve to show up knowing that the rules have been applied consistently across the globe as they are supposed to be applied. And they need that so that they can have faith that their dedications, hard work, sacrifices are going to mean as much as they should.
Now, WADA came out issuing this response saying, quote, "As we've seen over recent months, WADA has been unfairly caught in the middle of geopolitical tensions between superpowers, but has no mandate to participate in that." The 2028 Olympics are scheduled to be held in Utah, but the International Olympic Committee said that if WADA isn't respected, that could be revoked.
That seems like something that the CCP would say, which they routinely say to try to coerce others to get their way. We're not going to back down.
This brazen attempt by the IOC and WADA to force Utah to interfere in an investigation would win the gold medal in blackmail.
11 of the Chinese swimmers who tested positive for that performance-enhancing drug TMZ are now performing in the 2024 Paris Olympics. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.